Good morning. Great to have you with us. The Prime Minister is under intense pressure. His premiership really hanging in the balance over the appointment of Peter Mandelson as US Ambassador, despite knowing about his ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
At Prime Minister's questions yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer conceded that the vetting process had made clear that Lord Mandelson had continued his relationship with the convicted paedophile. The government will now be forced to publish documents about the appointment after an angry revolt from his own Labour MPs.
And look, this is more than embarrassing. It is shaping up to be one of the worst political scandals in recent memory. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, reports on a government and a Prime Minister reeling from the fallout.
I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it.
What on earth just happened? Well, what you saw there is a government in full-blown retreat. It might not have looked like it, but make no mistake, this was a humiliating defeat, because not only do the government have to disclose all of the Mandelson files, but they don't get to decide which bits of it to hold back in the name of national security. They have to hand that decision over to the Parliament Intelligence and Security Committee. And who forced them to do that? Their own MPs.
There are well-worn filters through Parliament, through the Select Committee corridor, and there are various committees that could have locus in this space, to properly and sensitively handle information. I think there is consensus, Mr. Speaker, that everybody wants as much information as possible in the public domain so that we can get to the bottom of what has happened.
Now, that intervention, and all of it, I should say, was kicked off by none other than Angela Rayner earlier in the debate, only came about because Labour MPs don't trust their own government. They want independent oversight of the Mandelson files. And if that wasn't a low point, it gets even worse for Keir Starmer, because the Met Police has now said that they don't want the government to release any evidence that might prejudice their investigation, the very evidence that Keir Starmer wants to release to prove to his MPs that he really was deeply misled by Mandelson. So that's another problem for Keir Starmer. The PM is in a serious bind because he needs to prove to his MPs that he was seriously misled. And I can tell you that his MPs are febrile, some of them feeling very, very compromised and wondering what they should do next. So this is a huge scandal. It's potentially the biggest political scandal of this century. How on earth did we get here?
Mandelson betrayed our country, our parliament and my party.
Over the weekend, it emerged that Peter Mandelson, when he was in government in 2009, leaked market-sensitive, top-secret government information to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And to give you a sense of how serious this is, Mandelson is now under criminal investigation for this, for misconduct in public office and leaking confidential government information. And if he's prosecuted and convicted, well, he could face jail time. So that is pretty enormous, and I don't need to tell you how bad it looks. But that isn't where it ends, because the scandal has come right to the door of the current Prime Minister. And that's because last year, Keir Starmer personally brought Peter Mandelson back into government as the ambassador in Washington for the UK. It was a massive job, and I don't need to tell you that the Prime Minister has now massively ruined the day he took that decision.
I regret appointing him. If I knew then what I know now, he would never have been anywhere near government.
The mood hardened even further against Starmer at Prime Minister's questions when he admitted that he knew about Mandelson's ongoing friendship with Epstein.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did.
Now, for some of his MPs, it is simply unforgivable that he reappointed Mandelson when he knew this information. Because the Prime Minister brought him back into the fold, it's now a very live political crisis at the heart of Starmer's government. Now, he will hope that the release of documents will relieve the pressure on him and prove what he's saying, that he was badly misled. but he cannot be sure of that. And for a Prime Minister in the predicament he's already in, that is a very, very dangerous place to be.
Well, Amanda joins us now to discuss this. Amanda, how much trouble is Keir Starmer in?
Well, he was already on pretty thin ice with his MPs, wasn't he? I mean, I think there is a real risk that this could be the scandal that tips him over the edge, as it were. We can see how angry all the backbenchers are about this, just by the revolt that we saw yesterday about the government's plan to have such tight control over the release of the documents connected to this. But fundamentally, it's not easy to unseat a Labour leader. There's been a lot of muttering about it, but we'd probably need to see some big high-profile names, ministerial resignations. There is some chatter about that, but I think we'd need to see people really putting their head over the parapet in order to do that.
Maybe Morgan McSweeney is the person they're perhaps targeting as a kind of lower-hanging fruit, I guess.
Yes, a bit of a sacrifice to kind of show that they are listening, I guess. So Morgan McSweeney is the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, his right-hand man, really, in Downing Street, and he's sort of the man credited with orchestrating the election victory, you know, less than 2 years ago now. He's not popular with the left and the party. He's quite a centrist, and also he's very close to Peter Mandelson. He's been described as his protégé. He's someone who's known to have really pushed for his appointment as US ambassador. So there is a lot of anger among MPs about his role in it. But you were asking Steve Reid about this earlier, and he was really pretty firm in his defence of him, insisting, well, he'd been lied to like everyone else. Let's have a listen.
All that's happened here, it's dreadful what's happened here, but Peter Mandelson lied not only to the Prime Minister, he lied to the Prime Minister's entire team. He's betrayed the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, he's betrayed 2 Prime Ministers, and he's betrayed the country.
So
now,
has he betrayed Morgan McSweeney? Is that what you're saying?
He lied to everybody. And now what people need to see the extent to which he lied, and that will happen as these documents are released, so people can see.
Can you answer the question?
Deception.
Is Morgan McSweeney safe in his job?
Yes, of course he is. The problem when someone lies isn't that they lie to you, because there can be liars in any walk of life. It's what happens when you find out you've been lied to.
I mean, the defence that all that's happened here is we were lied to, I don't know if that will ease pressure he's feeling at the moment from his backbench MPs, but we'll see. We'll also see probably some quite revealing information in the documents. Do you know when we'll see those documents?
Well, they're just saying as soon as possible, but it's not in the government's hands anymore because they've had to agree that the Parliamentary Committee, Intelligence and Security Committee of MPs will actually be the ones going through the documents and deciding if there are any that shouldn't be released because of national security concerns or other reasons. And they've had to agree to this because MPs thought the government was perpetrating some kind of cover-up by suggesting that there might be reasons of international diplomacy why they might decide not to release some of the documents, which is what the government's original plan was, that their civil servants would go through that. And then the other complicating factor is that the police are carrying out a criminal investigation into the suggestions that contained in the Epstein files that Peter Mandelson had passed sensitive government information, financial information to Jeffrey Epstein when he was a minister under Gordon Brown. So the police have said, well, they don't want to compromise their criminal investigation, so they're not that happy about some of the documents being released now anyway. Now, for number 10, I think we have from the Prime Minister, he's really pinning his defence that he'd been lied to and he didn't know any more than anyone else and that he, you know, made the right decision at the time but clearly wouldn't have done if he knew everything he knows now. That really rests on seeing what's in these files, and I think when they're still not in the public domain, that's a risky kind of space because it just kind of gives rise to even more debate about what is in there and whether we can, you know, frankly believe what the government has had to say about it.
Thanks, Amanda.